This is 4?
4.
I thought we did 4 already.
No, 4. No, right. Cause I missed 4 last month. So
All right,
5.
so this is 5, right?
5.
Inshallah. Any way to turn these fans off? Inshallah. Play. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين اللهم انفعنا بما علمتنا وعلمنا ما ينفعنا اللهم زدنا علما إنك أنت عليم الحكيم اللهم اجعل هذه المحاضرة حجة لنا لا حجة علينا Ya Rabbil Alameen. Amma ba'd. This is our 5th class in the book Zaad Al-Mustaq'ni. It's a famous book that many of the ulama or scholars of Al-Islam, they teach this book in Mamlakat Arabiyyat al-Saudiya. This is a book that we studied extensively with many different mashayikh, and inshallah ta'ala we're going to continue with our class inshallah. But before we get into the new material, the first thing we're going to discuss is a quick review, inshallah. So we said that, what is tahur? First of all, what is purification? What is it? Anybody? Wudu, ghusl. We gave definitions, right? So what's the definition of purification? I'm not going to tell you, so don't start writing. You're going to tell me. Huh? Lifting and removing what?
Impurities.
Lifting and removing impurities. What type of impurities? Ritual impurities. And what else?
Nature.
What else? Actual impurities. Excellent. So what's an example? What is a ritual impurity? What is that?
Semen.
Huh? What's a ritual impurity?
Semen. Any
What'd you
semen. Semen.
Cement?
Semen.
Where'd you get that from?
Sperm.
Where'd you get that from?
It comes from the body.
No, I know it comes from the body. I'm saying, we didn't cover that.
Oh.
Where'd you get that from? See, you're reading too far advanced. You got
okay,
stay
right.
with the class, Sheikh.
Inshallah. Any body fluid that comes from ritual impurity.
What does it mean? What does ritual impurity mean?
That which removes your wudu.
It's something that will take you outside of the state of religious purification, if that makes sense, right? So we're dealing with, so for example, if a person uses the bathroom, you didn't have to say that, you say use the bathroom. Person uses the bathroom, right? This takes you out of the state of ritual purity. In other words, you become ritually impure. This is called hadith, okay? So after that, we have actual impurity. What's an actual impurity? Huh?
Feces or
Yes, feces, urine, anything like that. Anything, they say najisun bari'un. Bari'un means it appears. Before it wasn't present, but now it's present, okay? So purification in Islam, it removes that. It removes the the ritual impurity, and it also removes the actual impurity, okay? Now, the first part here, we said initially that water is broken down into 3 categories. Many of the scholars today, they say there's only 2 categories, but since this is a classical book that we're going through, we're going to go through the classical text that many of the scholars in the past, when they defined this, the aspects of water. So they said that the first type of water, which we've been covering for the past month, is ma'u tahur, water that is considered purifying. It purifies, is pure in and of itself, and it purifies other than that. It's pure in and of itself, and it purifies other than that. Is that clear? You with me? Like, all right. We said that the ulama al-Islam, they explained that ma'u tahur huwa baqi ala khilqatihi. Al-baqi ala khilqatihi. It means that it remains in its natural state. However, we explained this to two meanings. Does anyone remember? Huh? This is all review. Remember, we're having a test. We're having a test coming up pretty soon. So, huh? Pay attention. The reason why we're reviewing, because all of this information, it goes together. As we move along, all of this information is going to link. It's going to make more sense to you. All right? Remember, we said that purifying water, hakikatan, what's in reality, and we also have something called hukman, right? So it takes the ruling as natural water, and we have something that is in and of itself natural water that comes from the sky. Do we have any examples? Huh? Do we have any examples of what is water that is remains in its natural state, hakikatan? Hakikatan here, it means it remains in its natural state of purifying. It's pure in and of itself, and it purifies something else. Ahsan, water that comes from the sky. Just rainwater. Or water in the sea. Okay, so this is called hakikatan. So this is in reality. This is, it stays in its natural state. Then we have something called hukman. We gave a lot of examples of hukman. It takes the ruling of water that remains in its natural state. However, in reality, it changed somewhat. What are some examples of that? This is important. Now, mind you, let's put everything in perspective, okay? Somebody might, why are we talking about all this water? What's the relevance? How many people go camping? Some people, right? When you camping, you don't have running water, do you? No. So when you go camping, some people bring water with them, right? So how would you know if you can make wudu with this water, make a ghusl with this water? How are we going to perform acts of worship? When we go out in the camping, do we pray? We still have to pray, right? So we have to understand, we may be in an environment where we don't have running water. What are you going to do? Everyone's going to be scratching their head. Oh man, we got to pray. What am I supposed to do? There's water here. How can I use it? I don't know. So this is what we're covering right now. Okay? So what are some examples of water that, what are some examples of water that is considered hukman? It takes the ruling of water that remains in its natural state, but it's not. It changed somewhat.
Like a puddle.
A puddle. What type of puddle?
A puddle where we use something.
Ahsant. So if we have water, we have water that maybe some leaves fell into it. Like you have a basin of water, and some leaves fell into it. Another thing we mentioned was that water that is sitting for a very long time, and it may change some of its characteristics by itself, not with us doing anything to it. This is also considered hukman. Okay? All right. The next one, we also broke it down into another category. We have water that is purifying, but there are some water that is purifying that is offensive to use, and there are some that are not offensive to use. Hated or not hated. You guys remember that? No. You wasn't here. Might have been a couple weeks ago. You got a review. Huh? Got a review. No one remembers? MashaAllah.
Someone was mixing with it.
Okay, which one is that? Is it hated or is it recommended to use that kind? Which is it?
Does it depend on the mixture?
It depends on the mixture. All right, what type of mixture?
Tea. We have to use that example of
tea. Where do you get tea from?
We use that as an example in class.
When?
2 weeks ago.
Okay.
the tea bag change the color of the water.
We didn't use that for an example. What did we use that as an example for? What?
Change the water changing. It's color changing.
So with the tea bag, what happened to the water? Was it purifying?
No.
So I know we didn't cover that because we didn't get there yet.
We talked about that.
We probably talked about that after class. We didn't talk about that during class. I might be wrong, but I don't remember. Hold that.
Okay, all
right. We're gonna talk about that today, inshallah.
Like a carcass.
A carcass. Good. What about the carcass? So say, for example, you're out camping, you have a basin of water, and there's a dead animal next to it. It didn't touch your water at all, but the smell came over. You know, it might have affected your water somewhat. Okay? Is that water purifying, yes or no?
Yes.
Is it hated to use, or is it no problem to use? You'll say hated? No, it's not hated to use. No, it's not hated to use. So we'll mention some of them briefly. The type that is hated to use is something called ghayru mumazij. Ghayru mumazij is a type of water where something falls into it. Something like what? Like a piece of wood. A piece of wood falls into the water, but it's non-soluble. So it doesn't mix with the water, but it still falls into it. This is considered hated. Bimilhi ma'i, if it's salt. If someone puts salt in some of the water that you have in the woods, and they put salt in it, this is hated to use. At any event, we'll cover this again, but I don't want to give you all of it. Because then we spoke about last week's class. We spoke about a lot of water and a small amount of water. What is considered a lot of water? Go ahead. Roughly 42, 43 gallons. In some places you might read 50 gallons. So if you have about 40 to 50 gallons of water or more, this is considered a lot of water. Okay? If you have 40 to 50 gallons of water, this is considered a lot of water. If you have less than that, then it is considered what? This is important that we understand this today in order to understand the class that we're going to cover. A small amount. So anything less than 40 or 50 gallons is considered a small amount of water, right? Right. So kullatain or kullatan, that is a large amount of water. Okay? That is considered a large quantity of water. All right? This is a quick review. This, if you weren't here before, I think the classes are on the internet. So you can go on Facebook and pull it up and go over the class and catch up. All right? But it's important that everyone follows along so that you can get what's coming after it. So with regards to impurities, if you have a large quantity of water and something impure falls into it, and it changes its characteristics, either its color, its taste, or its smell. Can we use that water, yes or no? Huh? No. Why not? Because it what? Because it changed?
It changes taste.
Okay. Because it changed its taste and?
Don't take the hook of water anymore. Take the hook of whatever it changed it.
Nah.
If it's whatever falls in it and you can't remove it in a small amount of water.
Nah. You wasn't here last week, were you? You got this from me? You didn't get that from me. You got that from you. You didn't get that from me.
A large amount of water that falls in it and you can take it out, it doesn't make it impure. But a small amount of water that just falls in it and you can't remove it.
All right, pay attention. So listen, guys, pay attention. We have a large amount of water. If some impurities fall into that large amount of water, it's going to take one of two. You have to look at one of two things. Okay? If you have a large amount of water and some impurities fall into it, then we have to look at it one of two ways. You have to ask yourself, number one, did it change any of the characteristics of that water? Yes or no? We have a large quantity of water. A large quantity of water equals what?
150 gallons.
No. It's not that. You're mixing up issues. All right, stick with me. If we have a large quantity of water, a large quantity of water constitutes 42 gallons or more. Right? All right. Once we have this large quantity of water, we have to ask ourselves a question. Did this impurity that went into the water, did it change the water in any way? The large quantity. When we mean change, when we say change, what's understood by change? Smell, taste, and color. If any of those characteristics are changed, Sheikh, what are you doing?
I'm listening.
All right. If you change any of the three characteristics, smell, taste, and color, all right, if that impurity changes any of its characteristics and it's a large quantity of water, is that water najis or can we still use it? It's najis. Ahsant. And this is ahsant. So it's najis bil ijma'. It's najis with a scholarly consensus that it is impure to use. We cannot use it. Is that clear?
No.
A large quantity of water that changed some of its characteristics with something that's impure that fell into it, then that water is impure. Is that clear? We did all of this last week. This is just review. So if I'm going fast, you can still pick it up online if you want. But I want to kind of catch our class today. The next one, we have some impurity. We still have that large quantity of water, but some impurities fell into it. Now we have to look at it. Did it change or didn't it change? In this case, that impurity did not change. Well, what's the impurity? Let's say, for example, an animal urinated in your water that you have out in the woods. A dog, a wild dog came past and urinated in your water and ran off. You flee them away, he ran. But you still have that drop of urine in your water. You have a drop, a few, doesn't matter. A drop, many drops, few drops, it's still there, right? A dog urinated in the water. And it's a large quantity of water. Now, the first question you ask yourself, did this urine cause the water to change any of its characteristics? Either taste, smell, or color. If it did not change any of those characteristics, that water remains a purifier. In other words, you can still use it to make wudu or a ghusl. Is that clear? Right. We're dealing with a large quantity of water. And what defines a large quantity of water? What is it? Huh?
42 plus, yeah.
What is it? 42 or more gallons. 42 or more gallons constitutes what? A large quantity of water. Right. Now we have a small quantity. What's a small quantity of water?
Anything less than 42.
Anything less than 42 gallons. Okay? So, if we say, now, let's look at it now. We have to look at it. We have a small quantity of, like a basin, like a small bucket. We have a bucket of water out in the woods. Okay? Some impurities fell into the water. A dog came, licked the water, for example. Now, we're going to use that later. Urinated in the water. A dog came and urinated in the water. You have to ask yourself, did it change? Yes or no? If it didn't change, the water is what? Or let's say it changed. The water changed. Then we know that it's what? It's najis. If it causes a large quantity of water to change, then it's najis. Then what about a small amount? Same ruling, right? All right. What if it didn't change? If it didn't change and it's a small quantity of water, according to the fiqh of Imam Ahmed, it is also najis. It is also najis. Is that clear? Najis means filthy. Najis means what? Filthy. All right, is that clear? Right. Now we have another issue. This is the last one from review. Is we have urine or feces from humans. How do we gauge? Because according to the earlier generations of the scholars that studied the fiqh of Imam Ahmed, they held the position, or they differentiated between water that has human waste in it and water that did not have human waste in it. If it was water that had human waste in it, then how they determined a large quantity and a small quantity? How did they determine what was considered large and what was considered a small quantity? Before you raise your hand, does that make sense? Yes or no? Did I lose anybody? Good. Remember we just said water is broken down into two categories. A large amount and a small amount. Right? Okay. With regards to human waste, it is still broken down to a large amount and a small amount, but it's not using the scale of 42 gallons. It's using something else. There's something else being used to define whether it's considered a large amount or a small amount.
Something else being used to determine whether the water is a large amount or small amount.
Right. If it's dealing with human waste. That's a good test question.
Does it have something to do with the amount of urine or feces that's in it?
Nah, it doesn't have nothing to do with the amount.
We're talking about we're not talking about gallons at this point.
No, we're not talking about gallons. That was before.
Right.
Now we're talking. We're in the woods. We have a big bucket of water. We want to make wudu. We found a dog urinated in it. It's a large quantity. I'm sorry, it's a large quantity, more than 48 gallons. Say it's 150 gallons of water. Okay, listen. There's 150 gallons of water. Mm-hmm. A dog urinated in the water. Oh, I'm sorry. A human urinated, defecated in the water. How do we determine whether this is a large amount or a small amount?
Whether it's moving?
Whether it's moving?
Whether the word is like...
If you take it out.
Ahsant.
If you take it out. That's right.
The determining factor. We mentioned this last week. The determining factor of whether or not we can use that water that has human waste in it is how easy it is for us to remove the human waste. An example. Somebody defecated in a large 150 gallons worth of water. They defecated. Okay? If it is difficult for us to remove the impurities from the water, then this would be considered a large amount. Therefore, in this case, it is considered pure. And this is the position of the majority. In fact, some of them even say this is ijma'. And Ibn Qudam al-Maqdisi, rahimahullah, he mentions this in his book called Al-Mughni. His book called what? Al-Mughni. If it's easy to remove, even if it's 150 gallons, if it's easy to remove, then this is considered what? Najis. It's considered najis. Why? Due to the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where he said, "La yabulanna ahadukum fil ma'i ad-da'imi alladhi la yajri thumma yaghtasilu fi or yaghtasilu min." The Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, he said, "Do not urinate. None of you should urinate in water that is still stagnant and is not running, and then attempt to make a ghusl from it or clean yourself from it." So that hadith specifically addresses that issue. But this is the position, pay attention, this is the position, as we mentioned in the very beginning, during the fiqh of Imam Ahmed, there are three levels of scholars. We have something called the mutaqaddimin. These are the people that asarahu, people that lived during his time as students and so on and so forth. Then there's another generation called the mutawassitun, the people that are in the middle. And from them are the likes of Shaykh al-Islam, Ibn Taymiyyah, and others. And then after them, we have the mutaakhirin, the people that came after them. And from them is the one who wrote this book, Imam Al-Hajjawi. Imam Al-Hajjawi. I hope I didn't confuse anybody. This is all revealed, so it shouldn't be confusing. Huh?
I'm trying to go. I just got one question.
Go ahead.
So you said if it's easy to remove, then it's a small amount, and it's najis. If it's not,
Then it's considered a large amount. So the ease of which we can remove it is considered a large or small based on how easy it is to remove the waste.
And that's only when it's a human.
That's only dealing with humans. However, the majority, and pay attention, the majority of the scholars of Al-Islam, they don't differentiate between human waste and animal waste. But the book, it mentions this, so I said we're going to mention it anyway, just so people can understand that there is an issue with that. All right, so if that's understood, inshallah, we're going to start our class for this evening. Is everybody ready? Right. So last week we finished what? Last week we finished purifying water. Right or wrong? Last week we finished water that is considered a purifying water, correct? See, everybody sleep now. Huh? Right. So I'm going to slide this up here. I'm going to get out the way. So we can look at the board. All right. You don't gotta take a picture of it yet. Wait till we finish because I might have some mistakes here. I don't want you to take. Yeah, when I finish, we might, change some stuff, and I don't want you, somebody might ask a question and say, I forgot that. Let me add this and take it away. All right. So what we have here, remember, if you guys remember, when we first did tahur, purifying water, the first thing we said, we have to ask ourselves 3 questions. The name, and you guys can follow the highlighter here. The name, definition, and the ruling. You guys remember that?
no.
Yes or no?
No.
Okay. The first thing here is the name. Pure water. Purified water. And I have the Arabic on the right side, and the English is on the left. Okay? The first thing we have here is water that is considered pure. What is pure water? What's the definition of pure water? Huh? No, pure water. Tahir. So pure water is called tahir. Water that purifies something else is called tahur. So we have water that is considered purifying, and we have water that is just pure, but it doesn't purify anything else. So here we have pure water, tahir. Definition of tahir is what? A pure substance mixes with this water and causes it to change its name or overcome it with a pure substance. Does that make sense? No, it doesn't. We're going to talk about that. No, it doesn't make sense. He said it doesn't make sense. We're going to make it make sense, inshallah. A pure substance. What's considered a pure substance? Like what?
Like you said, like tea.
Like some tea. Huh? That's how I know we didn't talk about this. You're cheating, but it's okay. A pure substance. Listen, a pure substance mixes with this water. A pure substance like what? Like tea. Mixes with purifying water. So a pure substance mixes with purifying water. See, that's what I mean. Mixes with water. A pure substance mixes with water and causes it to change its name or overcome with a pure substance. Does that make sense?
Because you begin this sentence with the phrase of pure substance, then we automatically think that that's equal to pure water. But then in the middle, as the object of the preposition with, you said with.
Listen, I'm not a grammarian. You guys, I should have made that disclaimer from the beginning. Listen, don't listen.
Well, anyway, because you began with the pure substance, I'm thinking that a pure substance, you're talking about pure water.
Okay. So if I was talking about pure water, I would have said purifying water.
Okay.
Or water that purifies. But here we're talking a pure substance. So I'm going to define a pure substance as anything pure. Like what? Like a tea bag. Like some Kool-Aid.
Why is that pure? Why is that be a pure substance though?
Because it's not a substance that's considered filthy.
Let me go step further. Please.
Let me. Did that make sense?
So what differentiates
A pure substance from a non-pure substance? We'll talk about that. We didn't get to impurities yet.
Okay, sure.
Okay?
The definition is you're going to define pure water for us?
No. Yes. We're defining pure water.
Okay. All right.
Okay? So we're not going to use the same word in the definition, generally. All right? So a pure substance could be anything. Tea bag, some Kool-Aid. What else?
Coffee.
Some coffee, sugar, honey, milk, pure substance, right? You mix that pure substance into purifying water. You mix that pure substance into purifying water. What does that mean? Right now, turn on the spigot. I put some water in a cup, like this here. This here is what? It's water. Is it purifying? Can I make wudu with this water? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Now, I open this up, and I put a tea bag in here. That tea bag is a pure substance going into purifying water. Is that clear?
Yes.
If I take some sugar and I put it in this water here, the sugar is pure and it's going into purifying water.
Right.
Same thing with honey. Same thing with coffee. Anything? Is that clear?
Yeah.
Okay. Huh? Go ahead, Tao.
Confused a little bit.
Uh-uh.
The definition seems like that's not just water.
How does it seem like it's...
water because it changes. Because it
Hold. What is najis? We didn't even get there yet. Do you see anything here that says filthy?
That's pure.
Everything here says pure, all throughout.
Well,
Pure,
water,
pure.
Water is not able. I can't use pure Kool-Aid for wudu. It's like,
Ah, so that's what... So don't get ahead of us. That's what we're trying to get at. Okay? That's what we're trying to get at. What? Don't listen. Don't go ahead of just stay with everybody else. All right? Did I lose you, Sheikh?
I got you, but I'm waiting for you to catch up.
You waiting for me to catch up with you? All right. Well, you just wait. Just let me catch up. Let's go over this. All right. A pure substance mixes with the water, right? So we put a tea bag in here. Are we good on this so far? With the tea bag. All right. What's the ruling on this water now after I put a tea bag in it? What's the ruling?
Pure.
Huh?
Pure water.
It's pure.
Purifying them.
Okay, so the ruling on pure water, it does not lift ritual nor remove actual impurities. Is that clear? It does not lift ritual impurities, nor does it remove actual impurities. Is that clear?
So what that means is,
I got it now. Because I was confused.
Wait, that's what I'm saying. So here's the thing. Let me explain this first, and then ask your questions later. Because that way we won't finish. All right? So, in Arabic, it says, Al-Ism Tahir. Al-Had ma khalatahu tahirun faghayyara ismuhu ala ghalaba ala ajza'ihi. So, for example, once I put a tea bag in this water here, it's no longer called water, is it? What are you going to call it? It's going to be called tea. If I take this and put some Kool-Aid in here, what is it going to be called? Kool-Aid. So then here it says the name changes. The name then changes, right? This is why many of the ulama today, they do not use the term tahir. Because they say, well, it's not water. No one calls water that's pure water. It's going to be called whatever that substance is that's mixed with it. So they'll call it Kool-Aid, or they'll call it tea, or they'll call it coffee, or they'll call it juice. Whatever, but it's not going to be called water. So for that reason, many of the ulama today, many of the scholars today do not even identify this section here. Is that clear? So then why are we going over it? Because it's in the book, and it's something that we need to be familiar with. Okay? Right. All right. So then, water that is considered pure There are 4 types. There are 4 ways to identify it, if you will. 4 ways of identifying it. Number 1, when a pure substance mixes with purifying water and changes its color or taste or smell by way of cooking or mixing. Same thing. That's easy, right? Does that make sense? Kind of like what we mentioned here in the definition. So this is number 1. This is the first type. And in Arabic, وَإِن تَغَيَّرَ لَوْنُهُ أَوْ طَعْمُهُ أَوْ رِيحُهُ بِطَبْخٍ أَوْ سَاقِطٍ فِيهِ. Same thing. This is what it means. When a pure substance, like tea, mixes with purifying water, and it changes its color, taste, or smell by way of cooking or mixing. Like what? You put a tea bag. Even when you write the English, when you translate it, they don't, English, I don't think we're supposed to say color or. Just put commas there. But in Arabic, it says or. Right? All right. Is that clear? Are we good on the first one? Inshallah? Like, we're going to switch to...
One question. What is that word after? غَلَبُوا عَلَى
أَجْزَائِهِ.
أَجْزَاء.
أَجْزَائِهِ. Parts. Different parts. All right. So now we want to switch to number 2. So, the second part here, number 2, if a small amount of purifying water. So are we good on the first one?
Yes.
All right. Number 2, if a small amount of purifying water is used to lift a ritual impurity, then the remaining water is pure, not purifying. I have to explain that. I know. In Arabic, it says, رُفِعَ بِقَلِيلِهِ حَدَثٌ. Basically, what this is saying is this. Right now, we're in the woods, okay? We're in the woods. I have a bucket of water. I need to make wudu. I need to make what? Wudu. I use this bucket of water to make wudu. I put my hands in it, make tamadmada wa stanshaqa. I wash my hands, my face, everything. And all the water that dropped off of it, it fell back into the bucket, okay? That water that is inside of the bucket is now tahir. It is not purifying. The water is just pure and it is not purifying. Why? That should be a question you ask. I know. That's why I said everything is all connected. Why is that water now considered pure and not purifying? Does that question make sense?
Yes.
Huh? Do you understand what we're talking about right now? No?
I'll tell you what confused me. Now I see there's a bigger difference now between purifying water and pure water.
Aha. That was the point. This is why when we did it the way we did it initially, you have to pay attention. Because if you lose something, you're gonna get thrown off. Right now, we have to understand. If I have a bucket of water, I'm trying to explain number 2, so this here becomes clear. I have a bucket of water. I use it to make wudu because I'm muhdith. Muhdith means I use the bathroom. Now I have to make wudu. I'm making wudu now with this water. The water that comes off of my hands and my face, it falls back into the bucket. This water now is used to lift a ritual impurity. That water now was used to lift a ritual impurity. Since it was already used in worship, then it cannot be used again to remove an impurity, ritual impurity. Is that clear? Does that make sense? Who said no? Good. We're going to get back to that. One sec. Go ahead.
And it's only because it dropped off you back into it. Now,
right.
If you did it over and it fell to the ground, then that's still purifying.
It depends.
On what?
Did you put your hand in it? So that's what I'm saying. If you put your hand in it and you're in a state of ritual impurity and you're trying to become ritually pure so you can pray, as soon as your hand touches that water, you own that because you're using it now to remove a ritual impurity from yourself. Is that clear?
No.
Tfadl, Sheikh.
Put it in layman's terms. The purifying water that you use to make the wudu.
Mm-hmm.
Once substances fell into the water from your wudu, it became pure. But you can use it for tea.
Listen, Sheikh. Right now, that's number one had to do with a substance going into the water. Don't laugh. Don't laugh. No. Don't laugh. We're not laughing at nobody here. We're all learning. Okay. When the number one was a pure substance going into the water, right? Was that number one? So that was the tea. Okay. That was the tea. We're done with the tea. Throw the tea away. We're not even on the tea anymore. Now we have a bucket of purifying water, like this cup right here. See this? This is purifying water. I'm going to use this water to make wudu because I'm ritually impure. I just used the bathroom. So now I'm going to use this water to make wudu. Okay? I'm using it. Okay? Whatever is remaining, like that falls back into it and so on and so forth, that's all together. This water now has already been used to remove a ritual impurity. Therefore, this water no longer takes the name of purifying. It is just pure. Why is it pure? Because it was already used to remove a ritual impurity.
But what I'm trying to say is you can, after you do that, you can use it for tea. Sugar, put stuff in it.
Nah.
Yeah, but we're talking about, right now, Sheikh, we're talking about purifying yourself so you can pray. We're not worried about tea right now. Do you understand what I'm saying? I hear what you're saying. What you're saying is after the water falls into, can you still drink it? That's what you're asking. Can you still use it for tea? Yeah, that's not the issue. Right now, we want to worry about praying. The salat's coming in. We don't, what are we supposed, you're not going to be thinking about tea. It's time to pray. How are we going to pray? Does that make sense? So now we're just focusing on using the water to make wudu with it. Okay? So, now.
So if I end up making wudu with the water, and then he couldn't make wudu with the same water.
Can't make wudu with the same water.
Unless you pour it out the bucket onto
Yeah, but we didn't get there yet.
Okay.
We didn't get there yet. All right, is that clear so far? Up until this point? Yes or no?
No.
Right. All right, the next one. Now, this one here is going to have people going crazy because you probably never heard this before. I remember when we first studied this in the university and with some of the mashayikh, I was scratching my head. Number 3, placing hands in a small amount of purifying water after sleeping at night and not washing them prior to placing them in the purifying water. What the heck does that mean? Let me explain this. Right now, we still have a bucket of water, okay? I just woke up. We're out in the woods. There's no running water, but there's some purifying water there. The first thing I do is I stick my hands in this water to make wudu. I'm going to wash my hands 3 times. Right now, I just messed this whole water up. No one can use it to make wudu. That whole bucket of water now just became pure and not purifying. I couldn't even use it.
So you can continue that first wudu?
It's done. The water is already, it's done. You can't do nothing with that water now. You can drink it, you can make tea, you can whatever, but in terms of purifying. So the question is, why is that? Huh?
It's connected to a hadith.
Ahsan. We're going to read this hadith. All right? So when we first covered this, you can imagine a lot of people saying, what is this? It doesn't make sense. Right? It doesn't make sense. The hadith here says, a hadith of Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, and it's an authentic hadith. And Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, he said, إِذَا اسْتَيْقَظَ أَحَدُكُمْ مِنْ نَوْمِهِ. If a person wakes up, so I didn't write this in English, so if you guys want to write this hadith down, you can. And Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, he said, if a person wakes up from sleeping, فَلْيَغْسِلْ يَدَيْهِ قَبْلَ أَنْ يُدْخِلَهُمَا فِي الْإِنَاءِ ثَلَاثًا. The Prophet ﷺ, he said if a person wakes up from sleep, then he should wash his hands before he enters them into any basin or vessel or any bucket 3 times. And the reason why I circled this 3 here, because we're going to visit that later. He said you have to wash your hands 3 times before you can put your hands into anything. Why is that? Because he says, فَإِنَّ أَحَدُكُمْ لَا يَدْرِي أَيْنَ بَاتَتْ يَدُهُ. Then none of you do not know where your hands was roaming while you were sleeping. Question. Is this any sleep or is this only sleep at night? Huh? So according to Imam Ahmed, it's sleep at night. Why? Because this word here in Arabic, batat baytuta, it only happens at night. From the language, the word batat here, it only happens at night. Some of the ulama say, the reason why it says batat here is because most people sleep at night. But according to Imam Ahmed, rahimahullah, the position of the Hanabila is that, in general, you wash your hands, and it's for the sleep at night. Now, we have 2 types of sleep. We have the type of sleep where you're still conscious, and then we have a type of sleep where you're not conscious. If it's a type of sleep that you're conscious, then you don't have to make wudu. But if it's the type of sleep that you are unconscious, to the extent that you do not know what's going on around you, then this is the type of sleep that they're talking about here in this hadith. Is that clear? In this hadith, you can find it in Sahih Muslim. In Sahih Muslim. And there's a difference of opinion on this issue, but we're just mentioning it here. If you remember the first class we had, we said that rulings in Islam are based off of 2 things. Either ta'abbudi, which means we hear and we obey and we don't ask questions why, or mu'allal, or the reason for the hadith or the reason for the legislation is known, so therefore we can analyze and compare it to something else. Remember we said that? All right. So this hadith here, this issue here, many of the scholars that follow the fiqh of Imam Ahmed, they say this is ta'abbudi, meaning the reason, we really don't know the reason. We hear and we obey. So if you're out in the woods, this is for anyone. If you're out in the woods, you have to make wudu. The first thing you want to do is wash your hands before you put your hands in that bucket 3 times. Well, how are you going to get the water out of the bucket? Use a cup. Scoop it out. Wash your hands. Have someone pour it on your hands. Okay? Well, is that clear?
I have one question.
It's fine.
One question. Okay, so is this, I've heard this hadith before, but it was an addition. I want to know if it's authentic or not. That a person, he said to the Prophet something like, he said, like he knows where his hands are at night or something. And he woke up with his hand in his rectum or something.
Allah, I don't know about that.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know. I'm not seeing. I'm not familiar with it. Like, is that clear? So let's go to the 4th one. We might have to delay Isha a little bit tonight. That's cool. That bad. The 4th one. The water that remains after the last wash from removing an impurity or filth from a pure place is pure. What the heck does that mean? I'm going to explain it. Number 4. Right now, let's say a mother is changing the child's diaper. Okay? Right now. She's changing a diaper, or the father's changing a diaper, or the oldest child is changing the baby's diaper. This is number 4. Okay? First of all, and once you're changing that diaper, some of the impurities get on your hand. Some fecal matter get on your hand. Okay? First of all, it does not break your wudu. It's the first thing. It doesn't break your wudu, but you have to remove that impurity. Or let's say not only does it get on your hand, let's talk about your garments. It gets on your clothing. Right? The fecal matter gets on your clothing. Okay? So, this water now that you use, you have purifying water, and you pour it on your clothes. Are you with me? Mm-hmm. You pour it on your clothes. The water that slides off from that, what is the ruling on that water? That's the issue here that we're going to discuss.
That slides off from what you clean?
Yes. So say, for example, right now, say you're washing your hands. Right. The water that falls off of your hands from washing them, from having fecal matter on your hands, what is that water? That's what they're talking about here. So pay attention. وَكَانَ آخِرَ غَسْلَةً زَالَةً النَّجَاسَةِ. In the fiqh of Imam Ahmed, when it comes to washing off something that is impure, then there are 3 rulings with regards to that. Some of the ulama say it is sufficient to wash that thing 1 time. Some of them say no, you have to wash it 3 times. There are ahadith to support everyone. Like for example, washing your hands when you wake up in the morning 3 times. So they might use that here. 7 times. Say for example, if a dog licks into a bowl, there's a hadith that says you have to wash the bowl 7 times. So herein, the ulama al-Islam, they say, hey, there's 3 different ways we can understand washing something. We can either wash that impurity once, 3 times, or 7 times. However, the position of the ulama, especially Imam al-Hajjawi, when he wrote this book, his position was 7. This is the position of the mutaakhirin, the ulama from the Hanabila that came towards the end, towards the later or the more modern ulama. They say they take the position that when you wash off something that is impure, it has to be done 7 times. So let's explain this here. Right now, it says, the water that remains after the last wash. Why does it specify the last wash? So I'm going to explain this here. Right now, I have some urine on my throat. So I'm going to take this here, and I'm going to pour this water on my throat. Right? The first wash, the water that comes from that is considered what? Najis. Ahsant. The second wash, najis. Now, mind you, pay attention. All of this is ibadah. What is this? Ibadah. This is worship. Why? Because we need to get pure so we can do what? Pray. We gotta pray. So we have to take care and make sure that we are cleansed properly. The third one is what? We're on the 7 here. Yeah, we're on the 7. The third one is najis. The water that comes from it is najis. Even if, pay attention, even if the impurity is removed, you can see in your eyes it's gone. It's not there. The trace of it is removed. But guess what? According to the position of the ulama of the past, we're going to do 7. So now it's 4 times. What is that word from? Najis. 5 times. 6 times. 7 times. It's pure. It's pure. Why is it pure and not purifying? Listen to the question. Why is the last wash that I use to remove the impurity, why is that last wash, the water that falls from it, why is it pure and not purifying? Ahsantum, masha'Allah. Allahumma barak alayk. It was used in ibadah. Does that make sense? No. MashaAllah, y'all paying attention. Alhamdulillah.
Excuse me.
Yes.
So that goes to all your niyat. If you're going by the 3, right?
Well, if you take the 3, then the first one, the second one is impure, and the last one, right. If you go by the first one, then as soon as it's removed. Now, what if it takes more than 7 washes to remove it because it's still there?
You gotta use odd numbers.
Nah, it has nothing to do with odd numbers right now.
Anything after 7 is.
It might be, so say for example, after 7 washes it's still there, then you have to keep washing until it's removed.
You do 7 more.
You can do, but you don't, the requirement is 7. But if it's still there after 7, then you have to continue until it is removed in totality. Is that clear, guys? Alhamdulillah. Is that clear, Sheikh? All right. All right. So now we're going to move on to the third board over here. So we just finished purified water that is pure. So we already covered purifying water, and now we just finished water that is pure. Now we're going to move on to filthy. Slide. You gonna do it for me? Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. You can bring this over. Yeah, that one, inshallah. All right. Now, pure water, that was fairly easy, right? Compared to, it was a little more simple than purifying water, right? All right. All right. So now we have filthy or impure water. Najis. Filthy or impure water. I'm going to leave it on the English here. Filthy or impure water. All right. Remember when we said that dealing with the water, we have to come up with the definition, right? So we have the definition here. Water mixed with something impure. Water mixed with something impure. Is that simple? Easy. Water mixed with something impure. Like what? We have this cup here. Put some urine in here. Now it's impure. Alcohol, whatever. But we're going to get to alcohol. That's a whole nother... we're going to talk about that at the very end. So we mix it with something impure. Right. What is the ruling? It cannot lift ritual impurities nor remove actual impurities. Is that clear? All right. That's as it relates to something that is najis. Najis here, there are 3 types. Some say 4, but there are 3 types. Water changed by an impurity. That's najis. Najis water is water that was changed by an impurity. That's pretty simple, right? All right. Number 2. A small amount of water touching impurities, either causing it to change or not causing it to change. For example, a small amount of water like this bottle here. If a small speck of urine, just a small speck of urine touches this bottle of water here, then the water is what? Najis. Even if it doesn't change anything. Is that clear? Does that make sense? And you see how this right here was directly related to our review. Remember? If we have a small amount of water, and if anything impure touches it, then that water automatically becomes impure. Okay? The third one, water that remains in the process of removing the filth. Water that remains in the process of removing the filth. Like what? If you remember a few seconds ago, we said we have some feces or anything on our thawb. Remember we said we had to wash it how many times? 7. So from 1 to 6, what is that water? Najis. Ahsantum. MashaAllah, you up. Everyone's paying attention. And with that, we finish. Najis. Is that easy? Alhamdulillah. It gets easier. Yeah, it just goes downhill after that. All right? All right, we're done with this one. Hand me that other board right there. Inshallah. Somebody asked a question. They said, why can't you pour the water in your hands? I don't understand that question.
I guess they talking about from a cup. You know, somebody's pouring it to make with the pour, and it's not dropping back in the water. I think that's part of the answer.
Yeah, we already talked about that, right? Yeah, you can do that. If someone pours it on your hands, it's fine. No problem. All right. Now, how do we cleanse that impurity? How do we cleanse the impurity? Is there a way for us to do that? Yes. There are 3 ways in which we can purify that impurity. What does that mean? Right now, we have impurities inside of water. This is all we have. And we have another bucket of water. How do we turn this water that's najis into something that is purifying, that we can make wudu or ghusl with it? There are 3 ways of doing that. I'll read them in Arabic for those who want to hear the Arabic. First of all, there are 2 principles here that must be understood. The principle number 1, tazulu taghayyur. That changing element or that factor in that impure water must change. In other words, it must remove the change. So right now we have najis in this water here. All right? We can see it, we can smell it, we can taste it, whatever. That changing property must be removed. Is that clear? That changing property must be removed. The second one, and it has to be a lot. It has to be more than what? When we say a large quantity of water, a large quantity of water is what? 42 gallons or more. So then, as long as we understand these two principles here that are written in Arabic, number one is it should not be changed. It should not have a problem with the smell, color, and taste. It should be normal. Okay? The second one, it has to be a lot of water, more than 42.3 gallons. Is that clear? Tight. So now we'll just read it in Arabic. أُضِيفَ إِلَى الْمَاءِ النَّجِسِ. The first thing is, you want to be able to, so right now we have that a large basin of water, a large quantity of water, but it has some impurities, and the characteristics of that water has changed. How do we purify that large body of water? Number one, Imam al-Hajjawi, he mentions, you add a large amount of purifying water to it. So you add even more purifying water to it, to what? To change it, to remove that impurity. That's one way. Number two, a large amount of water purifying itself. We have زَالَ تَغَيُّرْ النَّجِسُ الْكَثِيرُ بِنَفْسِهِ. How can water that is pure or najis, how does water that is impure purify itself? Maybe it could be flowing. Maybe. So this was the issue that I had, actually. This is a problem that I had. How does water purify itself naturally? So you can use a well, for example. Remember when we said, say for example, a dead animal fell into the well and it overcame the well. So much so, remember we said that a well is considered a large quantity of water. Once that animal jumped in the well and died, it changed all of the characteristics, the smell, the taste, and the color. Over some time, that well will eventually become pure, purifying again. How is that? Because it's fed from the ground. The water that goes in the well is fed from the ground. Is that clear? Some of the ulama al-Islam, they mention this issue here of also something najis changing. They compare it to alcohol. But we're going to come back to that after we mention the third one here. The third one here, the impurities were removed and there's a large amount remaining that is unchanged. In Arabic, نُزِحَ مِنْهُ بَعْضُهُ كَثِيرٌ غَيْرُ مُتَغَيِّرٌ. Right now we have a large quantity of water, over 50 gallons worth, maybe 60 gallons worth. Now there are some impurities in that water, to the point where it caused the characteristics of that body of water to change, either smell, taste, or color. But guess what? We're able to remove it. So we have people, look, we're all working together because we all need to make wudu, the salat is in. And so we have to figure out how we're going to remove this impurity. And alhamdulillah, we were able to remove the impurities from the water. We removed the impurities from the water and there's still a large quantity remaining. We removed the impurities from the water and there's still a large quantity remaining. Does that make sense? Water. Does that make sense? All right, so let's go back to number 2. Basically, just for the record, we're done. Everything's done. We just finished najis. We just covered all this, but the last part here is an added benefit. I just want to bring this as a nice little benefit for all of us, inshallah. Here, the ulama al-Islam. So right now, does anyone have any question about anything else that we covered? Alhamdulillah. Make sure you guys review. Because we have a test. We have a test like in 2 weeks. So everybody got to review. Huh? What's your question, Sheikh?
Looking at the two definitions of the filthy water and the pure water, they have the same exact definitions.
They do? You sure?
Oh no, they have the same exact ruling.
Same ruling, that you can't use it. But the definition is different. Okay? The ruling is you can't use it. That's a good question, mashallah. It's Jayid, mashallah. Tayyib. So, let's go back here to number 2, where it says a large amount of water purifying itself. This caused me some issues. Even when I was in school, it just didn't make sense. How does water purify? Besides the well, is there any other way Water can purify itself or become pure even if it's najis. How does that work? So when you look at some of there's a book called Al-Mustaq'ni from Ibn Qudama. He says, أشبه الخمرة إذا انقلبت بنفسها خلا. So he said that this is easy. Say for example, we have alcohol. If you let alcohol sit long enough, first of all, alcohol is najis. And we're going to talk about that after I finish this. Alcohol is what? Najis, impure. طيب. If you let alcohol sit long enough, do you know what will happen to it? What will happen to it? What will it turn into? Who said that? Ahsant. If you let alcohol sit long enough, it's going to turn into vinegar. Vinegar is a pure substance. Vinegar is a pure substance. There's authentic hadith of Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam where he talks about this. I don't remember it off the top of my head, but there's a hadith, subhanAllah. As we're talking, inshallah, I'll remember it. Here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in Surah Al-Ma'idah, Allah says, إِنَّمَا الْخَمْرُ. So some people may say, well, how is alcohol najis? And what does that mean, najis? Because we're going to talk about this, and then we're going to talk about how it affects us right now in ways we don't even realize. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, إِنَّمَا الْخَمْرُ. What is khamr? Alcohol. Wal maysiru. What is maysiru? Say one up. Gambling. Ahsant. Wal ansab. What is ansab? It's like an idol, like something you use, like, yeah. All right. Wal aslam. Wal aslam. Right? That's aslam, right. Okay? Using some form of shirk. Okay? Some form of worshiping other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah says what? That they are rijisun. Rijisun. The word rijis, it means najis. It means impure. And then Allah says, it's min amil shaitan. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala beautify the shaitan. The shaitan beautifies these things for us. The shaitan beautifies alcohol. The shaitan beautifies gambling. Beautifies these idols. Huh? They're bin amal shaitan. These are from the works of the shaitan. So Allah says, فَاجْتَنِبُوهُ لَعَلَّكُمْ تُفْلِحُونَ. Allah says, stay away from them. By chance, you will be successful. But right now, if we look at this, khamr, alcohol being najis. You can see that. It's liquid. Touch it, you know. But the big difference of opinion here among the scholars of Al-Islam is alcohol najis hissiyan or ma'nawiyan? Does anyone understand what that means? Is alcohol najis by the touch, or is it najis just by the ruling? In other words, if I touch it, it's not impure to the touch, but it's impure with the meaning. Does the issue make sense? Huh? Think about this. So, majority of the ulama of al-Islam, majority of the scholars of al-Islam, they say that alcohol is najis by the touch. Majority of the ulama of al-Islam. So I said, oh, how's that, brother? How's that? Some of them, they use this ayah here. Allah says it's najis. Right? And there are other dalil that they use. For those that say it's not najis by the touch and feel, they mention a narration of the Sahaba when the Prophet ﷺ told them to dump the alcohol in the streets. And it was running. They said it was flowing down the streets. And so some of the ulama say if it was najis, then the Prophet ﷺ wouldn't have told them that, he would have said you got to wash your feet and purify yourselves because the najasa from the khamr, the alcohol, is touching you. Does that make sense? But someone else might look at this verse in the Quran and ask this question. Here where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions gambling. So are you telling me if I have some dice and I'm gambling, are these dice najis? If I pray and I have them in my pocket, does it break my wudu? No. Fine. If I take this idol that they have and I break it into pieces, I put a piece of it in my pocket, does it break my wudu? Or is it something najis? Will my salat not be accepted? No. Same thing here. So a person might say, it must mean meaning. Why? Because these things here, they're not najis if you touch them. So then the same applies to alcohol. Do you see how that argument can be made? Are you following? Are you following? Or no? Like, mumtaz. All right. However, Imam al-Qurtubi, rahimahullah ta'ala, he mentions this in his Ahkam al-Quran. There are certain types of tafsir of Quran that gives us the meaning. They're called ayat al-ahkam. There are verses in the Quran that gives us rulings like this. It's about, some of the ulama say there are about 500 verses in the Quran that strictly deal with rulings like this. All right. However, the ulama of al-usul, the scholars of usul al-fiqh, they say in order for a person, you see how we just said, well, wait a minute. If this here is not najis, if gambling devices is not najis if we touch it, nor is the idols if we break them up, put them in our pocket, if they're not najis, then this here must not be najis by the touch too. The scholars of usul al-fiqh, this is some added benefit, guys. This does not have anything to do with what we covered, but you know, they say this is the weakest form of adillah. The weakest form of adillah, this is called dalalat al-iqtaran. And what this means is looking at something else, and based on what that thing is here, you apply it to the other ruling. They say this is batil. Many of the ulama say you can't do that. Is that clear? Nice little benefit, right? Right. So then, the majority of the scholars of al-Islam, they hold the position that alcohol is najis with the touch. So here's the question. How does that benefit me now? I don't drink alcohol, but guess what? How many people here use cologne? Aha. We had some of the mashayikh that we studied with. They would not use cologne. In fact, one time I tried to spray. Sheikh, what are you doing? It's najis. What do you mean it's najis? He holds a position of the majority of the scholars of al-Islam, that the alcohol is najis to the touch. If it's najis to the touch, that means if you have some lotion, if you have some alcohol, if you have some cologne, perfumes, and all of that, that would indicate that it is also najis by the touch. Now, this is the position of the majority of the salaf. Majority of the ulama in the past, they hold this position. However, there are many ulama today also hold the other position, but it's not, you know, now. It's all of it. Yeah. No, listen, the purpose, I'm just mentioning this as a benefit to everyone. So if you see someone, if they hold the position that alcohol, if you spray it on you is najis, they have some dalil to support that. Majority of the salaf hold this position. Okay? Then there are also many ulama that don't hold the position. And we heard the dalil, or the reason why they say it's not najis by the touch is because during the time of the Sahaba, when the alcohol was flowing in the streets, no one was commanded to make wudu. Or to wash, not make wudu, but to wash the impurities from their bodies. Is that clear? Tayyib. Any questions? Tayyib. So then we just finished all of the impurities that have to do with tahur, tahir, and najis. We covered everything that have to do with water. Now,
can you tell me what the dalil they use?
Which one? The dalil that say that it is najis?
No.
They use this ayah.
Just the ayah?
No, there are hadith too. There's another hadith when the Prophet ﷺ, they came into the town of the non-Muslims and they asked them, can we use their vessels to drink and eat from them? And the Prophet ﷺ said no. He said you can't use their vessels unless you don't have any other option to use. Then you have to wash it. You have to wash it and cleanse it and all of that. So some of the ulama look at this hadith to show that khamr is haram by the touch because this is something that non-Muslims do. They drink alcohol, they eat pork, they do all these things. This is one of the evidences that they use.
Okay, so,
Does that make sense?
yeah.
Now, I'm not giving my position. I'm not worthy to have a position. I'm nobody. I'm just telling you what the ulama say. So don't ask my opinion. I don't have an opinion. Like, now.
Please elaborate on what you said about the cologne.
Let's leave it alone. I was just mentioning that as a small benefit here. If you wear cologne, keep wearing. If that's what you believe is okay, keep wearing your cologne. All I mentioned was that there's a difference of opinion. Some scholars actually see that cologne to be najis, based on this verse in the Quran. Some scholars of Islam do not hold it to be najis, based on this. Some of them base it on this, and the interpretation of it. Some of them may base it on this, and some of them may base it on the hadith, that when the khamr was flowing in the streets. And the point of me mentioning this is just to show you, brothers and sisters, that Islam is vast. It's not black and white. This is a knowledge-based religion. No one opens up their mouth about this religion and talk about it unless you have knowledge. If you don't have knowledge, just I don't know. This is what the ulama spend their time doing: studying, reviewing, benefiting the people, teaching the students, teaching their people, making sure they learn the religion instead of just talking. They don't just talk and waste people's time. They don't waste your time. When you sit with the ulama of Islam, you benefit. You go home, you take a benefit, you teach your family, so on and so forth. Brothers, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. Allah Jalla wa Ala says He did not create us, the mankind and the jinn, except but to worship Him. All of this stuff here is ways that we can get closer to Allah. All of these things here are ways we can perfect our worship. That's it. That's it. Because all of us have an appointment with the graveyard. Every last one of us. You want to spend your time talking about people? Labats. You want to spend your time getting closer to your Lord? Ahlan. That's what we're doing here. We're studying and we're trying to learn. At any event, we want to finish with that. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant. Astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.